This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, great. Thanks. So the recording is going on. I asked Dick to record this so that he could post it on our website so anybody who didn't make the meeting could go back and review it if they wanted to. So this will be recorded. This is open meeting for all members to tune into. Just a reminder that this is a board meeting of the board, and the members are welcome to be here and listen in, but we would ask that they would hold their comments to the very end, and if we have time, then we'll open it up to the members as well. But the first task is to get the information to the board members. And even the board members, like I said, I ask you to wait until I get through with my presentation on the first topic, which is a review of duties, responsibilities, and roles of board members and committees. I'm going to do a PowerPoint slide show. Take notes on that when I get to the end of it. I'm going to transition over and we're going to look at our website and where all the committees are listed. And then that will end that first part or the first topic for today. And then after that, we'll go in and discuss. I've got a report from Don Homer from the Planning and Coordination Committee. And he's not able to attend this morning, but he sent me a report yesterday, and I'll read that for everybody. And then we got David, who's going to talk about the ponds and where we're at on that. And Chris Schill is going to talk about the grounds. And then the last thing we'll do is I have another short piece that I want to talk about on bylaws. We're not going to actually be able to review all of our bylaws today, but we are going to talk about the bylaws in general. Okay, with that, I will start my presentation and we'll see how this goes. So I'm going to share my screen. Yep. And I'm going to go hopefully here. Okay, what you should see, if this worked right, is our mission statement. Dick, can you see the mission statement?
Yeah, you got it. It's up.
Awesome. Okay. So what I see on my end is just the mission statement. It just covers my whole screen. I can't see anybody's, any other member or anything, but that's okay. And can you see my face?
Well, I can see your face, but I don't know if anybody else can because you're the presenter.
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good feedback. Okay, so I just want to throw this mission statement up here and let you take a look at it. This was developed by the board around 2016. I don't think it's been changed. If it is, please let me know. If anybody has anything they think needs to be adjusted in this mission statement, please make note of it and bring it up at the end of the presentation. Okay. Well, that went fast. Okay, so undemocratic practice. This is defined in Robert's rules. And I think this is pretty much what's been going on in our recent history. This is how I got to the seat that I'm in today. And that was through an appointment. And that's not the preferred method. And I want to try to create an environment that's going to have people that more people that are willing to throw their name in the hat and run for a board position, and we need to get some more people on committees. Because we got some committees that are pretty much a one-man show, and that's not good. She's like a football team with one quarterback. That's not good. If something happens, you got to have somebody to step up and take their place. In order to do that, we got to have members that are willing to get a little more active in the organization somewhere and find out where they could best use, their talents and and something they have a passion for. And we got to grow the organization in order for it to be truly democratic and recognize all the members. We do have a good bit of people that do a lot of stuff that's a lot of people don't even know about. But I know firsthand, I worked with the treasurer and the secretary before years ago very closely, and we are very blessed to have those two people in our organization, Barbara Runkle and Gail Guntz. I'll tell you what, if we didn't have them to hold things together, I think we'd be in a world of hurt. But I mean, they're not going to be around forever. Somebody's going to have to, take up their role someday. So we got to figure out who that's going to be and prepare them. And we're still growing community. We're adding people all the time, new people coming into the development. So I think what we've got to do, all board members, all committee members, all members of the gardens need to be talking to the new people that come in, find out what their passion is, their talent is, and see if we can't get them to a place where they could be added value to the community overall. Okay, my duty as president of the board. I'm going to need your help to do this. I can't do this by myself. And I'm going to try when I do the meetings to go back and forth during the debate about pros and cons. So we're going to talk about each issue that comes before the board from both sides, and we're going to look at it. And that's really, my primary duty, as I see it, other than performing administrative duties that's listed in our bylaws, is facilitating a orderly, efficient meeting that gets things figured out by the board, not by me, but figured out by the board. And then we figure out who's going to act on that once the decision is made. Now, on boards, the president or the chairman doesn't have any more power than any other board member. We're all equal. The only difference between me and all board members is I am leading the meeting. But I definitely want to hear and have every board member engaged in what is before the board. And the bylaws is where we get our authority to do what we need to do as a board. Now this is guidance for the whole board. And in order to make our meetings efficient and to make good decisions for issues that come in front of the board, we got to be ready when we have a meeting. We got to make sure we've done our homework, read everything that we needed to read in order to make a sound decision. And I know that we're a traveling community, and it's great that we have this electronic means to reach out to people all over the place. With internet, it's pretty cool. There's nothing like face-to-face meetings. And so my intent is to do as many face-to-face meetings as possible. But whatever meeting you were told about, you need to make sure you're on time, and because that shows respect to everybody else that's in the meeting, and you need to know the rules, at least have a working knowledge of the rules that we run our organization by. And during the meetings, it's important that all members respect each other's opinions, even if you don't agree. Every member should have the opportunity to say whatever it is they want to say, and to be comfortable in doing that. Now, the secretary, like I said, Barbara, is very efficient in what she does, and she's very punctual. And in order to respect her and for what she does, we need to get her information as soon as possible. Committee reports or anything that she asks for, we need to try to put that on our priority to get her as quick as possible, or send her a note and let her know, hey, I got it. I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm working on it. Get it to you as soon as I can. Something. Because it just makes her job that much harder if we're getting stuff to her at the last minute. And I don't know any place that can get the minutes of the meeting out within 24 hours. I think it's incredible that she does that. And like I said, we're very happy to have her. So what board members do? So you make recommendations to the board on anything. So, and this is a great thing about being on the board, is you got a front row seat to make changes that you see are important, or that your neighbors have told you about and said, hey, this is bothering me, could you bring this up? Well, a board member is the first point of entry to get an issue in front of the entire board. So, and it's great. We got members that are scattered out in the neighborhood, and you just find one or call one, email one, and let them know what your concerns are, and then the board member can bring that in front of the board. We get it on the order of business. Now, board members need to become knowledgeable of all financial documents. Now, Gail does a great job, very detailed, in bringing his reports every meeting to the board. And we need to respect that position and his work by studying those, understanding those, asking questions about anything that we have. And I wanted our next meeting, I think what we're going to do is I'm going to ask Gail to go over all the financial documents, the treasurer reports in detail, and talk about some of those items that we may have questions on. One of the most important things I think that a board member does in a year is to provide input to the budget. The way this happens is the treasurer will do what's called a budget call. And a budget call comes from the treasurer, and he sends that out to all committee members who have a budget. And when that comes out, that is usually enough time to where the committee chairman can then gather their committee and say, okay, this is what we had for a budget last year, this is what we got for this year, and this is what we're looking at for next year. Is there any adjustments that need to be made? Pluses, minuses. And then that's where the chairperson gathers that data, and they come either to the budget meeting, or if they're not on the board, then they would submit that to the board and say, hey, this is what our committee is looking at, and this is what we think we need for next year, and this is why. Okay, because the committee needs to bring that to the board and explain exactly why they need the resources that they're stating in their report. And all of this is about growing the organization. Now, the board members got to realize you supervise all committees. We don't have it. I know Chris is a chairperson of the grounds committee, but that doesn't mean that the rest of the board members just look at that as, well, we don't have to provide any supervision for Chris. Okay, we should be looking at all committees. David is a committee chairperson for the ponds. That doesn't mean that we're not looking at the ponds budget and asking questions. And when the ponds committee makes recommendations, we need to question it and make sure that the board as a whole is comfortable with what that committee is doing. Okay, we got to make sure they're doing what the board wants, not what the committee wants. The board of directors have the other responsibility to make sure that committees have what they need to do what we want them to do. So, for example, our social committee is really big. The grounds committee is really big. They need to be big as far as people, hands, but we got to make sure that they have the funds that they need in order to do what we want them to do. They may have some ideas, and they may bring them to the board, and the board then, if the board concurs, then we'll fund it. If not, then we won't. But we have to look at that from time to time and make sure that what the committees are doing is going in the right direction. And that's up to all board members. Committees are defined in Robert's Rule as a workhorse of an organization. And like I say, the purpose of the committee determines its size. We have an insurance committee of 1. Okay, we have a lighting, and which might be okay. We have 1 guy looking at the insurance policies. We have a lighting committee that's like 1 and some part-timers, and that's probably not enough. We probably need, I think the lighting committee needs to grow a little bit. And there's other committees. I know we got 1 road and streets committee is vacant. We don't have anybody in that committee right now. So we need somebody to step up and take over that committee, or, that the work that committee was doing just is not happening. The great thing about committees is they provide continuity for their organization from 1 year to the next. So you're going to have board changes every year. Every 12 months, we have different board members that will come off the board, be added to the board, and they have a learning curve, of course, to figure out, okay, what are all these committees doing, and if they have any questions on it. But if we don't have committee members that provide that continuity from year to year, then it just makes that learning curve so much more difficult for board members that are coming onto a board. And it also it greatly helps us when we want to work on a long-term project, and board members may be all excited about a project, and then it's a project that's going to take 4 or 5 years, and they won't be on the board to see it completed. Committee members might. That's why it's so important. So we gotta talk to our committee chair people and ask them how they're doing. We get their reports is great, but I think we need to have more personal communication with them so that they have recognition and understand that the chair, that not the chairs, but the members of the board are listening and understand what their needs are. Now, we select our chair people. You know, those are appointed positions, and we need to make sure as a board that we're appointing the right person for that position. You may have somebody who wants to be a chairperson, but the board may not feel like they're the right person for that committee. And so if that's the case, then we need to be selective about who we put. One of the key components of being a good committee chairperson is being able to work with people. So you might be very technical and very smart at a certain category, but if you can't work with people, then it kind of defeats the purpose of having a committee. It's kind of a summary of what I just said. It's all about teamwork. This goes back to one of the first things I stated when I started. We got to have members that get active. In order for this organization to be successful and grow, we've got to get more members involved. Now what I want to do is I'm going to switch over and I want to look at our committees on our website. See if I can do that real quick. Okay, this is our website, and for people who've not been there in a while, you know, if it doesn't have your name up here, you're probably not logged in. If this name is login, you need to log in order to see everything that you can see as a resident, because otherwise you're looking at a generic form of it and you won't get access to all the stuff. So here's committees. There's the clubhouse committee. What I wanted to do here is, okay, look at join a committee. So if somebody wants to join a committee, they can click on join a committee and they can just scroll down through here and look at what the committee does, who the leader is, and they just click the apply button and they apply to that committee chair and let them know that, hey, I might be available to help out, and see if they could be helpful to that committee. There's charity and outreach, in the clubhouse, and then you can click down here and see how many members they got. Okay, that's a pretty small committee. Buzz, do you need help over there? You have to turn your mic on, Buzz, if you want to say something. Then we have yard sale committee, financial reserve, ground. So this is where we need to when we get new people, we need to point them out to, hey, here's a good starting point to see, you know, where you might use your talents. That one is empty. So we have an immediate demand for that. Yeah, we need to have some depth in our committees. But sometimes a chairperson may want to not have too many people on the committee, but it all depends. Now, another thing I want to highlight here while I'm on this page is the documents library. I think this is one of the most important features for our board members. If you look at the documents library and go to documents, you're going to see over here that the IT committee has done an excellent job in keeping access electronically from anywhere you are to get information. When I first got here about 10 years ago, for some stuff, you had to go digging in the file cabinet in the clubhouse. And I'm very thankful that I can look over these documents at home and know that they're the latest, most up-to-date documents. So here's our budgets, treasury reports, a lot of good stuff in there. Governing documents, all right there. Okay, so all board members need to be familiar with this website and be able to point other residents to it as a reference. Okay, I think I'm going to cut my time off here and open it up for the board members if they have any questions on anything that I've presented thus far.
Jean, this is Elizabeth Bowman.
Hey, Liz, you're there. Great.
Yes, I am. When we're talking about continuity, it almost makes sense to have, for something as significant as insurance. I'm wondering if for the insurance for Treasury and Secretary, if we hadn't ought to have an assistant in those positions, simply so that if someone were taken ill or unavailable, that information was available, and had somebody to explain it, so that somebody didn't have to come up to speed with it, from a position of being cold.
Point well taken. We have had some, I know, assistant treasurer in the past. I don't know that we've ever had an assistant secretary to you, Bart, have you?
Nope, I've done it all by myself.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But I was just thinking, that there's so many things. Barbara does so many things, and I don't know if any of us, could actually sit down and write down everything she does to know if she was not able to do it, for someone else to be able to accomplish the task.
I'm way ahead of you, Liz. I have already done that. I have a list of every single thing that I do.
Yeah.
And
Somebody else needs that list too.
Share it with anybody. Pardon me?
But somebody else needs that list too.
Yeah. I'll share it with the board, but it changes.
Yeah.
Often.
That's what I mean, is so that somebody else could fill you.
How about
we're taking
I'll upload it to the website?
Yeah, whatever, but just to have it accessible.
I understand that, right? Barbie said you could upload it to the website.
I'll talk to Dick and he'll make a special folder and.
I know that at one time years ago we used to have a little thumb drive that you would update that every now and then, and it was always like a couple of months,
Right. I haven't done that since Dick came and set up the website because he has all the documents there.
Yeah. I always say if we replace Barbara, it's going to be with 3 people, not 1. I don't think 1 person could do it.
You'd be surprised.
Well, you've been doing it for so long. I know you could do it in your sleep, but somebody else. And
If anybody's interested in being my assistant, just contact me.
There you go. Oh, you got any thoughts?
Who are you addressing, Eugene?
Oh, Gail Gunz. I was going to ask Gail Gunz. I know we had an assistant treasurer in the past, but we don't have one right now. What are your thoughts? You're muted right now, Gail. Oh, you can't turn it on? How about sign language? You good with sign language?
Okay, now I'm unmuted.
Okay, I'm gonna mute myself. I'll let you speak.
Well, I was just going to say that the principal duties, surely probably not everything Barbara does as secretary, but the bylaws pretty much outline what the secretary does, what the treasurer does, what board members are responsible for, So I would just like to emphasize again what you said about the bylaws and what they are, and hopefully everyone does review them once in a while.
Okay, does any other board members have any comments on what Nancy brought up for us to consider or think about? Is there any other topic that I've covered that any board member would like to speak to on the PowerPoint presentation? Okay, nothing else we need to discuss in that area. Then I'm gonna move on to topic number 2, and that's an update to the board of 3 select committees. I'll start off with Don Homer, who I've asked him to stay on as the planning and coordination chair, and he's agreed. He had something that came up this morning, so he couldn't be here, so he asked me to share this with you. His committee's report is as follows. The developer agreed to pay for the containment of the bags, which at the time he was going to purchase concrete road barriers. This is in reference to the pond remediation bags. When the time came, we didn't have the means to pick them up, and Tim didn't have a truck to carry this size of load either. So the ground was excavated to contain the large bags instead. He also agreed, that's the developer, to remove the contents of the bags when the time came to open the bags. The largest bag behind the clubhouse took 2 weeks and 85 dump truck loads. The pallets used to help stabilize the bags are currently waiting to be removed by a local brick company. The remaining 2 bags will also be emptied by our developer. The East Pond bag has taken longer to drain all the moisture out, and the removal of that soil was started, and a dozen loads or so were removed. Some of the soil was dropped by the road edges that will be seeded and bring the ground more level to the road pavement. The rain and then the cold weather has hindered that process. Someone had suggested that we hire a company to do the removal so we could get it done quicker, but the dump trucks run $1,000 to $1,200 per day, and a machine to load and grade the area would range from $1,200 to $1,600 per day. Grow with the Flow, our contractor who does our mowing, is willing to do it for less, but said they'll have to wait till spring, and they'll give us a price then on what it would cost to do that. Another topic, the North Pond has one inoperable fountain, and David Blackford had been working on it for about a month, and now it's out of commission. We had decided to replace our aging fountains one pond at a time. So this year, we should be replacing the North Pond fountains. No firm dates have been given to us for the repaving of the crumbling asphalt on Hickory Circle, nor the paving of Hawthorne Loop, and the replacement of the rusted out drainage pipe under Hawthorne Loop. The road is slowly eroding on the west side in this area. And that's from Don Homer, Planning and Coordination Chair. Is there anybody that would like to speak to anything from the Planning and Coordination Committee? You can speak to that, and this is recorded, and Don can maybe hear it afterwards. Okay, if no board member has any comments on that report, we'll go to the next report, which is ponds, and that's David Blackford. I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Eugene. Good morning, all. Just a couple of points to consider with the ponds, and they were kind of outlined in my report. The first one being the maintenance contract that we had last year and are looking at continuing that for this upcoming season. There's information that I posted yesterday from the contractor himself about what they're submitting for the upcoming year and what their responsibilities would be. As a point of clarification, he mentions 4 ponds that would be considered under this. I've asked him specifically which 4 ponds that is, and he's supposed to get back with me later today on that, so I can't answer that question at the moment. I think the main 3 ponds, being the west, north, and the east pond, are the ones that we're all aware of, but that 4th pond I need a little clarification on. So that's information he was out on the road and would have to get back with me, and he said he'd try to have that by the end of today. But as if for going ahead into this coming season, beginning in March, their agreement would be that they would come in on an every 2-week basis and treat our algae and all of the emerging weeds that would be coming up in the ponds on an every 2-week basis throughout the summer into October. And then that would conclude their responsibilities under their contract. So the second point I would just make as far as ponds go would be with the fountains themselves. Last year, we added 2 new fountains to the west pond, and the plan was to go ahead and replace the north pond fountains this coming year. The fountains themselves are in the 20-year-old range, so they've kind of have completed their lifespan. So it was decided last year or a couple of years ago that a replacement schedule needed to be put in place for those. So we started that with the west pond, and the plan is to continue that with the north pond in 2025. So that kind of is just a summary of really where we are with our ponds currently. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to take those.
Well, David and Eugene, as I've mentioned many times before, we do a great job of the 3 ponds on the one side, but not the 2 ponds on Holly Tree side. I know Quarry Pond doesn't need an algae treatment, but Holly Tree surely does. And also both of them are just absolutely overrun with weeds. And I know we could talk what the developer would or would not do, but we have a mosquito problem that is unbelievable and a frog problem that's unbelievable down on Holly Tree. And mosquito problem that's hugely at Corey. So I just ask you to please, if we're, water is water and around the water is water, that we really look at making sure we have 5 ponds to deal with and not just 3. Thank you.
Yeah, the fourth pond, David, that has been pretty much, well, it was worked last year under aquatic control contract, and that is the Holly Tree Pond. Okay, so that should, when he comes back, that should be the fourth, probably the fourth listed pond that you talked about.
Okay, Gail, you kind of cut out there. You said it was the Holly Tree. Are you talking about the waterfall pond? I don't know of a.
Oh, no, that's a quarry pond.
Okay.
Holly Tree is at the end of Holly Tree, or sort of at the end.
Okay. So it's the smaller pond at the end.
That was included, first time it was included was last year's contract.
Okay. Thank you, Gail.
Mm-hmm.
I'd just like to concur. That's my understanding too. Is that fourth pond is the Holly Tree Pond. And I'm in speaking with Jim Sparks, who worked a lot on that waterfall pond. He doesn't believe that you need to have an algae treatment every 2 weeks on the quarry pond, but I do know that there's a lot of weeds that are around the edge of that pond, and I was not aware about mosquitoes being an issue. Julie, mosquitoes is bad. When is it bad down there? And is it both ponds that mosquitoes are bad?
Right. I've been told by the homeowners down there that mosquitoes are bad at Holly Tree, and as you well know, I fish at Corey, and I can tell you that I deal with them, during the spring, summer. I guess the developer decided to get Odie to knock down all of the weeds that were at Holly Tree and also at Corey. I don't know that that's going to be a consistent, and I'm just asking if we're doing weeds on the 3 that we do weeds on the other 2.
Okay, is that something you could take a look at, David? Stock water control. If
Yeah.
they come every 2 weeks, could you maybe set up, if they could let you know when they're coming in town, and if you could, if you were in town, you could meet with them and then maybe discuss those areas and see what their recommendations are, and then bring that back to the board?
I will do that.
That'd be great. And if you're not in town, and I am, you can give me a call and I can fill in the gap for you or somebody else.
One other thing I'd like to point out to the board is that while David is setting up the aquatic control, I'll call it just a contract. We have to sign and deal with in that order. That happens usually in March, and they give us a pretty good discount if we pay all at once and pay on time. So I just want to remind you all that contract will come out of this year's budget because we generally pay it in March. Right now, we've still got, there's a balance of $11,399 in the budget. That contract has been 9,000 in the low hundreds, but I expect it to go up this year like everything else has gone up. I haven't seen the figures yet on next year's contract. So I just want to remind everybody that in the budget process, that has been taken into account that it's paid late in the budget year.
And I think that the quote that we have submitted was just a a repeat of what they had submitted last year. And if we want to add any services, we'll have to add that to the existing quote that they've given us. So we'll look into that, and we've got a couple months yet. Well, I guess 1 month before the 1st of March comes, when you could still get a discount. So I'll be talking with them in the next couple of days. So we'll try to arrange a time that we can go take a look at those other ponds and get recommendations and report back to the board then.
Okay. David, are you talking with people from a Knoxville office or from Kentucky?
Well, they've kind of consolidated some of their services.
Yeah.
Originally, I was given a contact from the Kentucky office, but then I was notified a couple of days later that our contact would still remain as I think Logan Ryan is his name. So that's who I've been in contact with here in the last couple of days.
Okay, thank you.
Cass,
Yes.
you have a mosquito problem on your back deck?
No.
Okay. So it's really
I can't hear you.
concentrated right around the water?
I don't have any experience with that. And I walk down there with my dogs. But Julie's down there and she's more in the weeds than, so she has a better handle on it. We don't have anything up here.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Is there any other questions for David from the board members? Okay. If not, then we'll move on to Chris Shield, Grounds Committee Chairperson. Chris, can you speak or can you only hear? Since I don't hear from Chris, I think he can hear us, but we can't hear him. But fortunately, I have a report from him, and I'll share it with everybody at this top. It's from the Grounds Committee Chair, Chris Shield. Said he spoke with Blake from Grow with the Flow and requested an extra payment for the leaf removal and stated that if we did not want to pay it, he would deal with it, but he feels it's only right to help him out. I think he's already handled that. He had the money in the budget, so I think he's gone ahead and taken care of that. He says usually the bid leaf removal is for 2 leaf removals, each of them being $2,000. So this past year, with the drought, the leaves dropped all at once, so he only picked up once, but it was a lot. So he billed us, he requested some additional payment because he spent extra time. He had 3 days on picking up the leaves instead of 2 to remove the leaves. So that one initial payment of $2,000 really kind of cut into his profit margin. So he's covered that, I think. So we ended up still saving over $1,500 in our budget on leaf removal because they only did it once instead of twice. Blake has done a lot of work that he with Grow with the Flow that he's not charged us for us or charged us for it. So the past year he has had his men pick up dead branches, disposed of them at no charge. This was never done in the past. This is also has saved many hours of having to get volunteers to pick up sticks. Says, I believe he did not charge us for the preparation and seating behind the clubhouse as well. Between now and March, he does not expect any expenditures unless the weather warms up enough to where we need to start cutting grass. The budget for maintenance of lawns and leaf removal with Grow with the Flow will be the same amount next year due to an agreed price for 2 years with no increase. So that's great information for the board to have going into the budget process probably this summer. So we already know what we're looking at for that line item. Okay, and that pretty much is the end of his report. Any questions for the Grounds Committee Chair, Chris Shield, from board members? Okay, if there's no questions, then I'm going to move over to the last topic that I want to cover with board members today. And I will need to have Dick, you to share my screen again. And the next topic is bylaws. Okay, you should see a slide that says ranking order rules. Y'all see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. I didn't know if I was muted or not. Okay, so the first order of rules is pretty much state law, county law, city laws, and our corporate charter, because we're a corporation, that was something that was submitted when this organization first started and became a corporation, nonprofit corporation. And that has to be maintained every year. Gail submits that to the state of Tennessee to let them know that we're still here. And inside that corporate charter, there's some language in there of what we do and a purpose, which is very important. The primary parts of the corporate charter are the address and what the purpose of the organization is created for. And for that reason, the corporate charter supersedes all other rules. Okay, so anything that comes after the corporate charter cannot legally contain anything in conflict with the language of the corporate charter. So this is also on our governing documents website link that everybody needs to read. I encourage all board members to read that after this meeting if you haven't done it already. It's pretty short, a couple pages. Ralph Wiggers was the president when he had an amendment to the corporate charter when we actually changed our name. And Gail knows about that. But you can see that in that corporate charter. So the corporate charter sometimes is also kind of combined with bylaws. Ours is not. And ours was a corporate charter by itself. And it talks a little bit about bylaws in there. And then it refers you to the organizational bylaws in a different document. So our bylaws cannot adopt anything that's in conflict with the corporate charter. So that's the hierarchy of the rules. And then after the bylaws, you have rules of order. And in our bylaws, it says that we will follow parliamentary procedure in accordance with Robert's rules. Now, so there's some rules within the bylaws, and whatever rules are not covered in the bylaws, then you go to Robert's rules. And then if there's something special that we want to do as a board, we can create standing rules. And standing rules, this is kind of where policies fall in. And policies would fall probably in that category. And then there's custom. So a custom can be what we're used to. An example of that, at the end of this slideshow, I will show you a extract from Robert's Rules on how small boards may operate. We operate kind of like that. We've made some, through custom, we've decided in the past that we wanted to run our board a little bit different from that, and that's okay. So bylaws and boards. So this is important to know. The bylaws are the rules for the organization. And the boards do not have authority to disobey the bylaws. Now, we can change them. If you don't like them, there is a way and a process to change the bylaws, but we have to follow them. And Article 4, Section 5 lays out what constitutes a quorum, and every act or decision made by the board is a majority of the directors present. So if you don't vote, that's equal to a no vote. If the president does not vote, that equals a no vote. Now, what I like to do as president is, you'll see later on in the slide, that in big meetings, mass meetings, the president does not vote. But in Robert's Rules of Order, there's an exception for small boards that allows the president to vote because of the small number of people that are voting. I prefer not to vote unless it's absolutely needed, or in the case of change to the bylaws, which requires 2/3 of the board members to approve a change in our bylaws. Anything other than changing our bylaws is normally just a majority vote. So if I'm not voting and I'm one of 4 board members present, then all 3 remaining board members must vote the same way, or it's not going to pass. And that's something that all board members need to consider when we have a meeting. They need to look at, okay, how many voting members of the board are present? And that may have an impact on the outcome of anything going before the board. Okay, so we got 7 members on our board. That means if we're going to change anything on the bylaw, it takes 5 out of the 7 to vote for the amendment. Okay, any questions from board members on anything that I've covered and on these slides? Okay, no questions. Then I want to open it up to board members for anything that we've covered today. And if they don't have anything, then I'll open it up to anybody who's out there that would like to comment. And I'm going to try to unshare my screen. Yeah. No comments from board members on anything today? One last thing before I open it up
Eugene,
to other members, is I want to do this again in about 2 weeks. So if you would put on your calendar, 9 o'clock, Friday, 7 February, I believe it is. And the topic will be Gail's financial documents and the budget process.
Eugene, we have a comment from Barbara.
Okay, Barbs, tell us what you got.
could we end the meeting and then have the Q&A?
We could.
And do you want the Q&A included in the recording or not?
Yeah, you can include it.
Hey, Eugene, I'm not really sure why we don't keep the meeting open for the Q&A, because isn't it part and partial to what the board member is about?
Okay. Point well taken. Any other comments from any other board members?
I agree with that. This is Liz.
Okay, I heard Liz comment. If she agrees with Julie. Any other comment?
Yes. I think if you're going to include the Q&A in the meeting, then you have to explain to the board what the secretary's responsibility is as far as taking minutes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well taken. The secretary takes minutes for the official meeting portion, but not the Q&A session. Does not go in the minutes normally. That would be a change on how the board operates, I believe. Is that correct, Barbara?
Yes.
Okay, so that's something that we need to probably discuss at a different point in time. I do want to, if we have time on 7 February, I want to get into the conduct of meetings. And that would be a good time to have that discussion on how we as a board want to conduct our meetings.
Well, at least, Eugene, if we're not going to, at least today, put it in the minutes and have that discussion on 7 Feb, let's go ahead and keep the recording going so that all of those questions and all those answers are recorded.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay, sounds good. So what we've decided here is we're going to record the Q&A, but they will not, the comments from the Q&A will not go into the minutes. And so we will close this special meeting session, and then we will stick around for Q&A. So with that, if there's no objections, I will close the special meeting. Time now. Okay. All right, so questions from anybody out there? I see we got 50 people still out there. I saw the high number was like 55, so some people's dropped off already. Is that what you saw, Barbara, 55?
I can't see all that.
Okay, fair enough.
I will tell you if I have 55.
That's okay. I was just curious. I thought it was interesting. It's a pretty good number. We got 50 people out there right now, according to my numbers in the right corner. But so we'll go ahead and open it up. I guess what you're going to have to do, if you want to make a comment, you're going to have to turn on your video screen and your microphone, and then you can make your comment. I see Dennis, you got a comment?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're kind of quiet.
Okay.
Turn your volume up, maybe?
In regards to the phone, I thought when the bylaws or the DCCR just said that the developer was responsible for the pond until the common areas were turned over to the HOA. So I guess my question is, why are we spending money from the HOA to treat ponds that we are not responsible?
I had a hard time hearing you, but I think I got what you're saying, Dennis. Did everybody else hear? David, did you hear that?
I had a hard time hearing most of it. I heard his last comment about why is it that the HOA is funding the maintenance on ponds that technically we're still not responsible for. I think that was the last comment that he made, if I understood him correctly.
Is that right, Dennis?
Yes, that's correct.
So, David, you want to respond to that, or any other board member?
I'm not sure that, Dennis, I have a good answer for you, other than developer hasn't been clear about when he would hand that responsibility over. And so I think at the urging of our membership, that most desire to have some kind of maintenance done on those ponds and not let them just sit there. So I think it's been at the urging of popular opinion that some maintenance be done on those ponds, at least until the developer says, okay, officially they're now the HOAs.
Well, then he should be paying for it. Another thing is the developer doesn't just give us the property. The developer says this is available. The HOA has the ability to not accept it. We don't have to accept it. So
So Dennis, I mean, my point has always been from the day I started on this board 3 years ago, was to say that water is water is water. It's not our water. It's not the developer's water. It's water. And it deserves the same aquatic control as the three ponds. And if it's deemed by the waterfall that the Quarry Pond doesn't need aquatic control, so be it. So be it. But it's no different on the Holly Tree Pond than it is on any other pond on the other side of the gardens. And I'm just talking about water. If we want to go to the point of the weeding part, I dig what you're saying. I understand it, because that in itself is outside the water portion that we're talking about. But you wouldn't believe the problems that we've had down at the Holly Tree, because we did not for 1 year have aquatic control. It went absolutely bonkers over there. So
just
that
to the bylaws and what's done by the board. That doesn't matter about whose water it is. That's the bylaws say we do not spend money on the developer's property. And it's up to the board to make it what to do. That's, I agree that we needed to be treated, but the bylaws say we don't treat it because it's not on the property. I don't understand why that's Eugene just went through bylaws and DPCA and stuff, and you're not complying.
Hey, Dick, can you share my screen again? Okay, hang on a minute. I'm gonna pull something up. If I can do this. Okay, let's here's a current charter. Y'all see my screen?
Yes, your screen is fine.
Okay, here's our charter right here. And I was talking about this a little bit earlier. That was amended in 2000. And this is something that sometimes we kind of lose track of. It talks about it in Robert's rules. You need to go back and review this from time to time. But when you get down to the purpose of our organization, and this I think is very important, the purpose for which this corporation is organized. There's a lot of paragraphs here. And so you read through this, it seems pretty clear to administer all the affairs of the members of the corporation which may be properly incident to the establishment, promotion, and maintenance of civic, social, recreational, and cultural interests within the gardens development. Pretty broad. And then paragraph 1 says the purpose of the organization is to establish, maintain, and operate all designated general common property and limited common properties designated as such within the garden's development. It doesn't talk about ownership. It talks about designated areas for common area.
How do we get them?
So the holly tree pond, according to this, what's the definition of designated? I would say if the developer has a plat map and he goes to the city and he says with an engineering drawing, this is what I want to do, and the city approves it, and then once the city approves that plat map, and that becomes a designated common area on that plat map that the HOA is at some point going to be assigned, given, or to take care of. Now, we have a lot of areas that we don't own, that we take care of. And that's been a topic of a discussion in the past, just like the grass between Highway 70 and the wall, the front entrance up there. It's not, it's really a state right of way. But if we wait for the state to come cut that grass, it'll be done by prisoners when it's about 2 foot high, like they do Northside Drive.
Yeah,
We want to do that. So I think we need to look really close at the purpose of the organization for which the corporation was organized. And this paragraph is the meat of our corporate charter, which is the Constitution. And the bylaws are made off of this.
The junk he dumps everywhere.
What?
All the junk he dumps everywhere. He dumps all kinds of junk everywhere.
Here's where the corporate charter sets up a.
Well, you know what?
See, and this is where it says the board of directors shall have the authority to make, alter, amend, and repeal the bylaws of the corporation, subject to limitations as imposed by law. That'd be state, county, city, and so forth. So we need to take a hard look at this. I think that there's some language in our bylaws that may conflict with this. And as I showed in my PowerPoint slide, if it does conflict with this, then it's null and void. This is the law of the land. The DCR, I think, also has some language in it that conflicts with this. And but that doesn't override this. This is our state legislative approved reason we exist as an HOA. So that's what I wanted to share with everybody. I hope all the members would take time to pull that down off our website and take a look at it. Okay, I'm going to give my screen back up now. Dick, you can take it away. Any other comments from anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to comment.
Go ahead, David.
This issue of house maintenance, facilities maintenance is something which I think everybody needs to take a step back and take another look at how aggressive you want to be with all this. Not to get into my background, but I have over 30, almost 35 years of experience in this very large communities. You're going to bust your budget before long, and you're going to also go past your capability to manage. You're going to have to look at and things like, what is the city responsible for in other communities? The city is responsible for certain things like street maintenance, then they should take care of the street maintenance. If they do pond treatment in other communities, then we should have the county or the city do the pond treatment. We should not be assuming responsibility for maintenance of things that fall within the city and the county's normal responsibilities with other communities. The cost of doing things like some of the things you all have on the books, you're going to have not only the cost of normal year-to-year inflation, but just the general cost of doing business, and it's going to grow substantially over time. And so, as you stay, the builder, the developer, should never be relieved of any of his responsibilities. He has made that financial commitment and that regulatory commitment through the city and the county what he's going to do. We should not be relieving him of any of those responsibilities. At some point in time when there becomes an issue about a certain item, then there should be a discussion with the city and the county to see what needs to be done instead of us just automatically approving something to take it over. Because like I said, you'll eventually price yourself out of business. And I know this quite well. I've done many, many budgets that have to do with grounds and facilities maintenance, much larger than this. And it's amazing how much the maintenance cost grows over time. And then you're looking at, of course, that impacts every member in the community, every resident, because they're going to have to pay the bill. And so you have a choice of there. And as far as the charter, that can be changed every year if you want to. So that can be modified and toned down quite a bit. But I think the one thing that I see that's missing more than anything else is resident involvement. And I'm not talking about committees. I'm talking about resident involvement in decision making overall. You have what, I don't know how many residents now. Probably 60% or more are brand new within the last 3 to 4 years. And how many times do you allow a community vote on something? I think that there needs to be more consideration of open comment from the community being addressed. And then secondly, maybe consider more of the community voting instead of just the board. I don't have any problem with the board doing, holding business meetings and coordination meetings and things like that. But when it comes to things that impact every resident should have a right to vote on those items. So, and again, I've had quite a bit of experience in developing charters and bylaws for some other organizations, and the biggest issue came up. These are just some of those that happened, but the big one right now is I think you're going to eventually bust the budget. You're going to be wanting to come in with very large HOA fee increases, and then you're going to get into contract and facility maintenance issues. And again, it's I don't think that this is a very small, tiny community, and I don't think that we really need to be involved at that level. And again, I would not do anything that's within the city and the county's responsibilities, and I would never, ever relieve the developer of any responsibilities whatsoever. He's the developer, he's committed to it, then he should abide by it. Not us just arbitrarily say, we'll take it over. And I agree with some of the things like spraying for mosquitoes, that's something, but again, the city and the county do that, other places. So anyway, I think that those things should be taken into consideration as you all start having your business meetings.
Eugene, just so you know, building on what David said about community involvement, we within the website, we have a clear way of doing surveys on any particular topic to the whole community, so that they can vote on it, and those can be reported if you wanted to exercise that functionality.
Thank you, Dick. That's good info. That might be something that the board could entertain in the future for sure.
Well, let me, just to give you an example of how things, we moved here in September a year ago. First off, new individuals purchasing property or housing here do not have immediate access to the HOA charter or bylaws.
Yes, they do.
No, I didn't. I couldn't get in there until after I had signed, and then I was allowed access through the internet.
I'm sorry, that's not, David, I don't know exactly what happened. That is not passworded in, and the documents are available to anybody considering purchase in the neighborhood.
But I asked for you to check on that because basically it was not available, and you had to have password access to do it. And so that's the first thing. I think the other thing too is that as far as the packages that are put out through whoever it is, Lois or whoever, there should be more information on the HOA provided in those packets for new prospective residents. But anyway, those are my initial comments.
Okay, thank you, David. Good info. Any other board members have any other comments for David? Nope. There's also good info from Dick Green. We have any other comments from anybody out there that's tuned in currently? I don't see any. If you do, you got to turn your camera on so we can see you. Otherwise, we don't know you want to talk.
Not everybody has cameras, so that may not be a good rule universally.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I'll scroll down through here and see if they turn their hand on or throw their hand up there, right? Hey, Cass, you got something?
Yes. As a board member, I was shocked to learn how much we spend mowing grass that is not ours. And I think David has a good point.
Well, that is one of the biggest line items in our budget, is grounds.
Well, we talked about we mow around houses that don't own their land around them, and about land that Tim owns, and around the apartments.
Well,
and when I question this, all I ever get is, well, we've always done it. And I think David's got a good point.
Well, I do know that there's been some, there's different phases of development have different DCRs attached to that land. And the apartments is a good example. It started out as a condominium project, and that was in the deed when those properties were bought. that there was going to be common area only outside the walls of that fourplex.
Eugene?
White Oak Circle's another one. That phase, I think it was phase 1, is the same way. Not all those houses fall under that DCR, but most of them on that circle, all they own is right outside the footprint of their house. And all that grass is HOA common area that's been turned over to the HOA. Except, well, I take that back. Phase 1 has not been turned over to the HOA. Been trying to get that turned over for a long time. The developer still pays taxes on that. But the area around the common area, which includes the ponds and all the area around the ponds, is common area. And a lot of people don't realize that live around the ponds sometimes where their property line ends. But their property line ends really close to their back door. And so most of what you see is common area there. So Gail, you got something to add?
I just wanted to make a comment about the grounds around the apartments. We own that. That's one of the plats. The HOA owns 4 common area plats right now. Okay. And all of the around the apartments that's mowed is common area officially turned over to the HOA. And you're right though, Eugene, phase 1 still has not been officially turned over. We've been mowing that for 27 years. And Cass is right. All I can say is we've always done it. There was an agreement made. There's an MOA in existence to do that. I don't know. But I might, while I have the floor here, I will say mowing the areas is not the most expensive budget item. Believe it or not, the ponds eat up a bunch of bucks. Fountains, the maintenance of thereof, the running of them 24 hours a day. That's the highest budget item we have, is those ponds.
And it gets into, just exactly how much aeration do you need? And running them as much as being run is excessive. You don't need that to aerate ponds. You will not even find these aerators in 90%, 99% of the ponds in Cumberland County. So we're over aerating. It's more of a beautification issue more than it is for aeration. If you've got to treat them every 2 weeks, aeration's not accomplishing it. The aeration should eliminate the treatment requirement, and it's not. So you're paying double. You're paying for electricity to run it, your maintenance, and then you're still paying for treatment, and you shouldn't have to do both. The Corps of Engineers treats the lakes in the state once a year or twice most, and we're treating every 2 weeks. There's just something out of balance there. You won't find any other ponds except some private ponds here and there that even get treated around here. As far as mosquito treatment, yeah, we need to look at that because that is an issue at times. But algae treatment every 2 weeks, and then we're aerating, that's way excessive.
I'd like to make one more point. As a resident on Holly Tree, just to highlight the fact that all this money we're talking about spending on mowing and the ponds, and there's not one penny being spent on anything back here on Holly Tree. Except for maybe treating the Holly Tree Pond. Something to look at because people wonder why people here on Holly Tree are not more active on the board and nothing gets spent back here. Nothing happens.
It's because they're not into the HOA.
I couldn't hear you, Dennis.
Because none of those areas have been accepted as common areas by the HOA, that the developer hasn't released.
Right.
But
The
we spend
developers
money
own
on
that area.
we spend money mowing on land we don't own. So don't ask me this. We've got one small pond back here that we've asked to be treated. And we've been mowing for 20, how many years, Gail, on this land that we don't own?
I think that was an agreement.
What David says about aerating the ponds and treating them. I mean, are we double dipping here?
I don't know what else to say about that, but you're right. Point well taken. There's a lot of residents that live in the Holly Tree area, and because the developer owns all the land around there, he's responsible for those areas.
But we're also mowing his land up front.
Yeah, I mean, Cass, you realize that we and the Godfreys take care of the green space between us, and if we didn't, all that water from the rain would cause the biggest mess you've ever seen. And he stopped mowing, so it was kind of like, you know, do we just let it grow and get worse, or do we take care of it? So the Godfreys and the McCallows said we're going to take care of it. And Mueller and Kovacs do the same next to theirs as well.
But there's 2 points there. Phase 1, the HOA at that time did an agreement with the developer that we would pay the taxes and we would mow the lawn. That was an agreement done many years ago. Yeah, and we can look back in the documents and you'll find it. And also, it's up to the board or up to us to hold the developer responsible for what he's supposed to do. I agree that he shouldn't be mowing anything phases 1 through 5 unless we have that happen. In the newer section, the developer is not doing his duty, and that's what you need to do.
Okay, I heard most of what you said, Dennis. It was kind of muffled. I think it's hard for a lot of people to understand. I'll try to recap it. What you said was we have a MOA for that area in phases 1 through 5 that's been agreed to maintain, and that's a developer and HOA agreement that's been standing for a long time, and that's why we do that. We do not have a HOA agreed upon document with the developer, any of the areas back on Holly Tree area, right? Don't you said?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So maybe that's something we need to entertain. And I understand, take David Shockey's point well, that, hey, whatever we can, county, city, or developer, get them to maintain it. But the problem with this development has been going on since what, 1990? And I don't think any of us will be alive to see the developer turn over some parts of the land that he has back there in the back. I think we'll be long gone before that happens. So then that's why I point to the purpose of why our organization was originally set up. And that's for all residents. So even though we have residents that live on Holly Tree that, their area is not getting maintained, that doesn't mean that we can just throw that over to the developer and say, hey, it's his problem. It's still an HOA problem. And I think we need to address it as a group and with understanding that from what we've seen in the past, we could do our best to try to get developers to do some things. And believe me, I've tried in the past. And, but at the end of the day, if you really want it taken care of and done right, you're going to have to do it yourself. And what we've got now going on, I think, is unacceptable. That we have residents that live back there because they don't know what else to do. They have to do it themselves. They're mowing and taking care of areas with volunteers back there, kind of under the radar. And I'm sure, the developer's happy that they're doing it. I mean, I'm happy as a resident up and living in phase 1 through 5 that somebody's doing it. Really don't care who does it, but I want the neighborhood to look nice. I want people to keep coming because I know that if we're not, and David, you can probably attest to this. You probably haven't seen many developments in the past that if you're not growing, you're dying. So if we don't grow the development, and I know it's going to get bigger, but if it's not growing, we got nobody moving here. That's going to affect your home values as well if nobody wants to live there because the area is not being maintained and looking bad. So I think we got to find a balance, and I don't know what that is, but we got to figure it out.
I think, if nothing else, let the members know aware of what you're doing. Now, you like the so now can't hear me.
Yeah, I
Mike,
got bits and pieces from you, Dennis. You have to work on your microphone, but
Yeah.
what I got, I think what I'm taking away. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can shake your head. Is that some of what's going on in the back in the new phases? You're not aware of it, and they need to bring that up so that everybody can be aware of what's going on. Is that right?
Correct.
Gene, Liz has a comment, I think.
Yes, thank you. Dean, I think that, based on the conversation here and hearing what Dick Green has obviously professional experience, I think that the board needs to sit down with him and talk about what in what ways we can address this or go about it to lean on the developer to do what he needs to do, because this is silly. Um, you know, we're enabling him, and that's comfortable for him, but he's not holding up his end of the bargain, and I don't think that's fair to the people that are having to mow extra or live with messes next to them where there's property that's got stuff just dumped because that's where the builders are putting it. I don't think we're going to continue to sell houses, and it's not going to continue to grow if we've got that sitting out there. And it's not fair to the folks that are living out there. They've got beautiful homes. They deserve to live in a beautiful place. And I think we need some more information, and we need to do some learning as to what we can do to improve the situation.
Point well taken, Liz. David, you got your hand up?
Yeah. One of the things, and I'm not going to do it, but if I requested an OSHA inspection of this end of the development, he would get shut down. There are so many safety violations up here that it's bad. So I'm not going to make that call, but I can tell you that leaving the construction sites the way they are is not safe, and it's not something that we would have ever done in any of the construction I was involved with. Not that you have to put fences up or anything, but things need to be cleaned up, and debris properly managed, and it's not being done. And it's, fortunately, we don't, not fortunately, but we don't have a lot of children running around here. If we had kids running around playing here, this would be even a bigger issue. But fortunately, the adults kind of avoid going into those areas. I had to go in and pull a woman's foot off of a nail in a board at one construction site that contractor did, and we ended up with a lot of liability issues because can imagine what that pain was like and what went through with that. But how many boards are left in there that have got nails turned up, and people walk in, and there are residents that visit some of these sites that are not the homeowner. But anyway, I'm just saying there's things that need to be cleaned up, and OSHA wouldn't be very friendly to him right now. But I'm one of those that the developer's the developer. Let him be the developer. If he's going to do it, then that's his responsibility. It's not mine. And it shouldn't be anybody else's. And then when he reaches the end of the line, then it's a discussion with the city and the county to see, okay, city, county, what can you do for us to help us out? So, and I'll end my comments at that.
Okay. Well, we're approaching the 2-hour mark, and I did not want to go beyond 2 hours. So we're not going to solve everything that we brought up at this meeting, but we can definitely discuss it again at a later time. Like I said, I think 9 o'clock Friday, February the 7th, I want to meet again. We'll send out a note, and I'll try to get a topics of discussion out to the board members and the community. I'll try to do at least a week out. That way you have time to do your homework and come ready to talk. All right. If anybody has any,
Let's have people who are going to speak so that we can hear them.
okay. Yeah.
We don't need an on-site interpreter. I just needed to hear what this man had to say, and
Yeah, it didn't go well. Gotcha.
it did not go well. No.
Okay. Yep. I guess next time we have that, we'll just have to shut him off and say we'll have to get a new mic or come back next week. Okay.
Speak.
Fair enough. All right. If there's no objection, I'm going to end this meeting. All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank y'all.